Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
All right, so I have good news and bad news. Rob is currently traveling at this moment, so unfortunately, he will be missing our mastermind today. However, I am taking over. If you don't know me, I'm Idona. I'm the regional manager in New Jersey. So we're gonna get started. We have some good tips for you guys submitting offers, and we're going to start off with the first one. Today's mastermind.
Adona,
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to say something at the beginning here, if I could, if that's all right.
Yes.
I just coincidentally happened to have conversations with three managers from offices in other companies and also two team leaders from other companies. And, I asked them, what's the biggest problem you're having right now and the biggest complaint you get from your agents right now? And it came back, that buyer frustration. They've been making offers, and sometimes unbelievable amounts of money over asking, and they're still not getting the house that they want. And I just thought that, wow, what a timely class today, based on, what I heard from these people who are in those positions where they have to talk to agents about these issues all the time.
Right.
I'm excited that we're going to be doing this today. And I know that Dona's got a great presentation for us. I'll be in the background if she needs me, but I'm sure that you're going to learn a lot from her today, and hopefully our buyers will stop having that level of frustration.
Thank you for the kind words. No pressure here. So I guess this is a great opportunity to start off with mortgage. What's going on with mortgage? I know Brian Pelletucci from Cornerstone First is here. Maybe you can just give us a quick update on what's happening in the market, and then we'll get started.
Sure. Yeah, just a quick market update, or maybe not quick. I don't know. We'll see how long I talk, right? Bond market's still in our favor. It's still moving in that sideways pattern, a little better, a little worse. Some days are worse, some days are better. But overall, rates are improving slightly. The 10-year Treasury has had slight improvement. And that's what's loosely used to gauge where the 30-year fixed rate mortgage is that the consumer sees. There's some other things, but just to make it simple, the 10-year Treasury is improving. Right now, the 30-year fixed for conventional financing is in the high sixes. First-time home buyers, FHA, mid sixes. Anything, when you go from a 1% to a different percentage, 6 to 7 or 7 to 6, that sometimes triggers either everything comes to a screeching halt when it's going up, even though it's a mental thing. It's almost like that retail where you see the price of $6.99 versus 7 something. It's mental for a consumer. We've had some bond-friendly data this week. Recently, there has been some cooler inflation data. It was not as elevated as what was expected. So that leads to softening economic data recently. There's also been some Fed speak, some Fed officials. Now that the Fed meeting last week is behind us, the Fed officials have said that, we are getting back to that 2% target rate that they are looking for. And that's what they are using as a gauge whether or not to cut rates and when the timing is for that. So the market is reacting to swings in this kind of uncertainty. Recently, the Switzerland cut rates, surprisingly. That's 2 for them recently. Bank of England held their rates. They kept the rates the same, but they signaled that there was going to be a rate cut in August. So other economies are going through what we're going through. Bad news is also good news. So the housing starts and building permits, which you may have heard, those fell. They were lower than expected. The building permits were actually the worst numbers in 4 years. So that means that new construction is down. What does that mean? That means that the economy is not as strong. So that is another thing that the Fed will look at. And they'll look at, okay, well, maybe this higher for longer that they keep talking about, keeping rates higher for longer in a strong economy isn't what's going to do it. Also, the unemployment rate ticked up slightly, which leads to a weaker economy. There have been retail sales data was weak. Sales are not up. We're not buying more. We're just paying more. So all this stuff, alludes to a higher chance that the Federal Reserve is going to cut rates in the September meeting. Obviously this is subject to change as new data comes in. There's constantly economic reports that are being released. Most days there's something that comes out. But like I mentioned last week, for those of you who have been on the call, this is a good reason to reach out to those people that have been sitting on the fence. Get them engaged again. Give them a reason, or get it. That's as a reason to talk to them. Really, a lot of people, you may not know why to call someone, especially when they said, "Hey, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready," and you feel like you're bothering them. But with this, this settlement that's coming, showing another reason why they should be using you and showing your worth, not necessarily just being an expert in the real estate market, but understanding what's going on in the mortgage world and the economy. That's going to show your worth as more. So that's pretty much it with regard to the market update. I do want to jump in when Idona is talking about the topic for today. I do have 2 things to add, so maybe I'll save those for when. I don't want to steal her thunder here, but
Perfect. Thank you.
maybe I'll add to those when the time is right.
That would be great. I have one question for you. Have you seen any of the lenders that are on this call from your team today? Have you guys started seeing any type of language added to the contract as far as like the buyer compensation goes, or you have not?
I have not yet.
I haven't either.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't personally, but I know like in Fran's office, there was a contract that came over giving the buyer's agent a 0%. We talked about that at one of our last meetings. So it's definitely happening. I don't know if Fran wants to elaborate if she has seen any more, but I know it's definitely happening. I personally haven't seen it, but it's definitely coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen any more of that. So, but it is going to happen. It is. Lots of questions about that.
I think a lot of people don't want to rock the boat until they have to.
Yes, it sure does look like that. All right, so I'm gonna just share my screen. This file was already shared with all of you through our email this morning and yesterday. So if we add anything to it, I'll make sure it's saved so you guys can have it. Okay. So first one is submitting the right offer. It all starts there, right? A lot of times when we go based on what has sold in the area that we're submitting the offer, and we just have to go beyond that. So I gave some tips to some of my agents from my area, and that was helpful. So I've noticed a lot of realtors in the industry have strategic ways of listing a property. Sometimes they're like below market value so that they know it will go at a certain amount. So what I told one of my agents who actually got their offer accepted because of it is I told her to look at the agent's listing history, see what properties they have listed, the price point, and where they actually landed on the selling price. Because it didn't really go based on the market value, it went based on the strategic ways that the listing agent had listed the property. And I would love to hear if you guys noticed that as well, that it's not really based on comps, it's really on the listing agent. I've noticed also there's agents that are from out of area and they don't really know our market, and they underprice the property so low that there's no way clients will go above certain amount, right? So for example, in Bergen County, in River Edge, somebody had listed a property for $450. And if you are in that area, you're not getting a house for $450. They usually tend to go in the $600-700. So I would love to hear what you guys think about the pricing, and have you noticed that the pricing doesn't really, it's not based on comps, it's really based on the realtor.
Well, I think none of that, the price is, to a certain extent, certainly based on comps. It just could be a matter of the method that an agent uses to price a listing.
Right.
That might cause lots of people to come see it and create the bidding war that they're looking to do. But you still need to have an understanding of, where the prices are in that county, or in that town rather, as a basis of, where your client should be making an offer.
Yeah, I agree. I think, depending on the area, so being competitive and making sure you guide your clients as to what's happening in the area, right? They trust us. We are the realtors, and we just have to go above than what just being sold. I always check to see the listings from the agent that has done business, like, so that way I kind of have an idea where my client should be offering. Talking to the listing agent. So a lot of times we're all busy. The listing agent, as you guys, when you're listing a property, you get over 40 offers sometimes and you get a lot of calls, text messages, leads. So it's very hard to answer everybody in the timely manner. And, one thing that I learned is if I have a buyer and there is a listing, I usually call the listing agent first to congratulate her. Like, wow, like that's because I want to make the initial conversation with her or him, congratulating them, saying what a great listing. Even if I show the property before an open house, I would still make an attempt to go to the open house, because that will be the opportunity that I would say 90% of the time you will get to meet the listing agent. You want to be in front of their face so that they know who you are. By just sending an email saying, hey, I sent you an offer, please confirm, without even talking to them, that's not really going to be an advantage to your client. Maybe sometimes depending on the amount of offers, but if there's multiple offers being submitted to that agent, it's very important that you speak to the listing agent. And I know, and I've seen it till this day, there's times that the listing agent does not respond to text, emails, phone calls. So it's very vital that you guys make an attempt, because most of these houses that are being listed right now, they say no showings till open house. So I know a lot of times we send our clients directly, but that's the opportunity for you guys to get to know the listing agent, build a rapport with them. So that way, when you are negotiating a deal with your client, they'll answer your call. I've experienced it myself. If I didn't really communicate with the listing agent, I would just get an email after a day saying my client's offer was declined. Whereas if I submitted an offer after I had my initial conversation, I kept in contact with them. Even if my client didn't get their offer accepted, they would call me to let me know why they didn't get it. What are some other tips that you guys can add to, like, what do you guys do to get in touch with the listing agent?
Glenn had a good idea. A couple of weeks ago, he made a nice video along with his offer. explaining more about his buyers, more about the offer. I think that's a great idea. I think he uses BombBomb.
Yes.
Actually, I use Dub now, but yeah, and I'll tell you that I don't do a lot of buy side, but of recent I have done a few, and won 3 out of 3, first try, first offer, and all because of the video. Because agents on the other side are so busy getting all the offers, they're lazily passing my video on to their client, and it's as good as an in-person presentation.
Good idea.
Yeah, Glenn, I think you had shared it once with me and it was like phenomenal. You can't ignore it. So that was a really good way of doing it as well.
Another thing you can do too is what we do is I've been working with the same mortgage broker for 30 years or so, and she's really good. So I just have her also call the listing agent to explain, the buyer's qualifications, just to strengthen everything. So when you do have the offer sent to the listing agent, they're pretty much aware that this buyer's pretty strong. So having a mortgage broker call the listing agent is also a good idea, I think, too.
Yeah, that's actually like another one of our tips. It's so important. It will matter to the listing agent. I've noticed a lot of contracts that are falling through is due to the lending part. A lot of times you will have mortgage companies that would just offer pre-qualification just based on the conversation they had with the client and probably pulled their credit, but not really check their assets, their debt. And then when it comes to it, they are not qualified. So, I just had something recent happen to one of my friends who's selling their home, and the transaction fell through because the lender did not realize that the buyer had a gap of 6 months without working. So, and then it fell through. So it could happen, right? But if you're presenting your offer and you tell the listing agent, hey, I'm using this lender I trust, I've been using them, I've closed multiple deals with them, and they have done their due diligence, they're qualified, they verified employment of 2 years, they provided their tax returns. That matters. Because when I submit an offer, the first thing the listing agent asks me most of the time is, do you know the lender? Because they want to make sure that it's going to be a smooth transaction if they decide to pick your offer.
That'll make your deal more stronger
Yeah,
when you offer that.
Adona, that's what I wanted to add to. So I don't know if
Yes.
you remembered on that transaction that we have, the pre-approval that I provided.
Yes.
First of all, I view this as if I'm going to put my name on something, it's not going to fall through. If I'm almost guaranteeing it. And this is just how I view this personally. I know there's a lot of lenders that don't do the due diligence. They don't vet out the client as well as they should. We at Cornerstone First Mortgage, we run credit. We get pay stubs. We get W-2s. We get asset statements. We review them. We send everything to our pre-underwriter before anything is sent out. They're almost pre-underwritten unofficially. Now, there is an official thing process that we can do with that too. I also highlight that in yellow on my pre-approval. Now, I know you guys put that in your offers, but it doesn't hurt to reiterate it on a pre-approval and make it stand out. Make sure they don't miss it. I also say that it's not contingent on the sale or rental of any real estate. It's crystal clear. And like I said, if I'm going to put my name on something, it's going to go through. And to tag on to what Ron said, I have spoken to many listing agents. I had a recent transaction where a borrower only had 10% to put down. They were going over list, and there was an appraisal concern, of course. I got on the phone, I called the listing agent. They wanted to accept our offer. I sold this. I said, we can restructure this loan. My borrowers want this property so bad that if we have to go from 10% down to 5% down or 3% down to make it work, that's what they're going to do. They have the funds to do it. So, we can figure this out. And the deal got accepted and it closed. And that's what made it. So having the lender in contact with the listing agent does definitely make a difference. Also, when you're dealing with a buyer that insists on using their own lender, or if it's a Rocket, or if it's, you know, a bank, that it's a call center or something like that. And look at the pre-approval. Make sure the pre-approval is really selling it. You know, I've seen these computer-generated pre-approvals where it's not worth anything. You know, you've all seen those, I'm sure. You know, make sure you're dealing with a lender that's really going to be on your side and really sell it.
I agree. I mean, I'll just share a quick story with one of my transactions that Brian is helping me. The whole transaction just changed. And I said to Brian, is this even going to work? He goes, I'm going to make it work. And so far it's been still on schedule. So, you know, using somebody that they trust you, you trust them, they can make it happen, you know? So having that on your side is always helpful, right? You know, Cornerstone with the, you know, they work with us and we had great feedback, and you guys, I know you always calling when we're submitting offers, you call the listing agent first to let them know how qualified the buyer is. So we always appreciate that. So that's like another tip, right? And thank you, Ron, for sharing that as well, because that is important. Submitting your offers professionally. So why is that a good tip? Well, I've noticed from being a listing agent and also as a manager, a lot of times you're in a rush writing that offer. You just fill in a few blanks, but leave the rest open. And also not submitting it following directions as per the listing agent. So if they're submitting a form saying this is how I want this offer submitted, that's how you're going to submit it. I've seen offers being sent directly from Dotloop or what's another one, like Zipfork
Transaction, yes.
or that, right? That's a big no-no. You will probably not even they won't even consider your offer because you didn't follow directions. If you can't follow the directions, just submit in the offer, that listing agent is going to just assume that you're not going to get this done because you couldn't even read the little few items that they wanted from you. Making sure the lead paint, if there's one on MLS, gets signed, the seller disclosure, putting it as a one PDF. And I know if Robert Garber is still here, he'll tell you that's like a pet peeve for a lot of listing agents, sending multiple documents in different emails. And it's very frustrating. It's not their job to put your offer together. Remember, you're submitting this for your buyer. It's our job as the buyer's agent to submit it professionally, you know, as one PDF. Attaching 20 documents or, you know, with proof of funds, pre-approvals, it's going to be very frustrating. Make it easy for the listing agent to have everything in one PDF.
Edona, can
Yes.
I bring up something about a lender?
Yes.
And you can attest to this because I had a closing last Friday and the lender was in California and it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare because there's a 3-hour difference. We're trying to close a deal at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They're out to lunch. They're on the beach. We almost didn't close the deal. Nobody's answering the phone. Having a local agent that's here in your time zone can save you a deal. We almost didn't close that day because of that. So that's something to consider when you go into these online, you know, banks that are, you don't know where they're located. You don't know what time zone they're in. They might not even get back to you. So having somebody that you know and that's going to be there for you can save you a deal.
That's why you got to educate your buyers, you know, and try to sway them from using these online brokers and out-of-town brokers.
This was not, I had the listing. This was not my buyer.
Oh, okay.
It was somebody else's, another agent's buyer.
Yeah, that's another as far as like the pre-approvals, the first thing they want to know is your lender local, because you're right, you know, if they're in California, I used to work for an attorney and they would go out to lunch. So like, let's say we had a 3 o'clock closing, they went out to lunch, they would they would approve it, but it would go to funding, but then funding would go to lunch. So you're sitting there 2-3 hours just to get funding approval because they're in California and we're here. So it's very important to have somebody who's here who can get it done. If there's an issue, you'll be able to contact, you have their cell phone number. I know, you know, Bank of America, it's like my least favorite because they don't really care because they know they're still getting the deal because of the client. So they have no obligation to work with us. Thank you, Gary, for sharing that as well. So another thing is when you're submitting your offer, when you're attaching to the file to send it to the listing agent, I write a long email and I summarize what my offer is. So that way she or he doesn't have to go through my package to figure out what I'm submitting, what my terms are. So submitting, you know, an offer saying, hey, this is the price, this is the down payment, pre-approval, if there's any documents like lead paint or seller disclosure, all attached, the terms, closing date. It's so important. If the seller needs more time, make sure you tell your buyer, because a lot of times these transactions fall through during attorney review because the buyer did not realize what the agent submitted for them. Same thing with appraisals. The difference between waiving the entire appraisal or having an appraisal gap. It's very important that you have that conversation with your buyers. You know, you understand the language, but they don't. So, you know, there was one offer that was submitted and it fell through during attorney review because the buyer did not realize what waiving appraisal meant. They're like, I can't afford to bring $50,000 if it doesn't appraise. So make sure, you know, you have to keep that deal together by making sure you disclose everything, and you know, you have make sure your buyer understands it, so that way you can go to the listing agent and say, yep, I'm sure this is not going to fall through. I already had my conversation with the buyer. And then let's see, you know, providing your partners to the email. So if you have an attorney that you recommended, write their information when you're submitting your offer saying, hey, they're using my partners and here's all their information, starting from attorney, inspector, title, lender, provide their emails, phone numbers. That's going to matter. I've seen from some of you where, you know, one listing agent had an issue with a lender or a title company or an attorney. Guess what? You don't want to deal with that. If they tell you, oh no, we're not going to use that, you already, you have the opportunity to change it. Contingencies, you know, right now, making your offer stand out, you have to go outside the box. So besides waiving appraisal, waiving home inspections, or, you know, limiting them to just major issues, what else are you guys submitting on your offers that stand out from the rest? I know, I'm not going to name him, but one time one of our agents called me, says, can we offer to pay the attorney fee for the seller? Can we write it that the buyer will pay? Paying the realty transfer fee, that's another one. Have you guys added anything else that makes your offer different from the rest?
This is Bill Tyson in Florida.
Say that again.
I'm Bill Tyson in
Hi,
Florida.
Bill. Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I got a couple of recommendations. Number one, a lot of times you have buyers, they want to use every OP on other people's money. So they want to go in and buy the property with as little down as they can arrange with their lender, but they're qualified for 20% down or 25% down. They need to write the offer at the 20 or 25% down if they want to make it stand out as being a better offer than one that's 3.5%.
Have a screw there, or do you think one of these? That's weird.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, let me just mute somebody. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
So that'll make your buyer stand out when he wants a loan, or if he does, he wants a loan, but he can afford to pay cash. Make it a cash offer. and then go through the process of getting the loan. Of course, give yourself enough time so that you can process the loan and fund it at closing. But the more you can take the loan out of the picture or mitigate it, the better offer you are going to have. Down in Florida, cash offers are rampant. So we are constantly fighting a person who wants to borrow money versus one who's just going to take his oodles of cash that he sold his house for and is going to buy something in Florida. Yeah, I had another one.
Which is always key, right? Obviously that changes everything, but sometimes it's not just about the money who's offering the cash. It's more, sometimes the terms matter more to the seller than the price point.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the better you can approach cash with your terms, the better your offer is going to be presented. The other thing is, in Florida, we have what we call is a backup contract. It's a contract that the seller's already agreed to sell their house to somebody. They sign a contract and everything's done. You go in with your contract and say, look, we understand you agreed to sell your house to somebody else, and it's got contingencies in it, and it may not close. If it doesn't close, would you not prefer to already have a backup offer in your hand, knowing that you can go immediately to the next buyer? If that's the case, I'm sorry?
And a
Sorry,
lot
go
of times, what you're saying, see, a lot of times when you do that as a backup offer, buyers don't want to wait that long. Because sometimes it has to, that deal has to go through the appraisal process, the inspection process, which could take weeks down the road. A lot of buyers said, tell me, well, let's just move on. We'll submit our backup offer. And if it's not accepted within 2 weeks, or 78 hours or whatever it is, 72 hours, they just want to keep looking. So it's tough to have a backup offer, I think. But what you said,
This is an opportunity to explain to your buyer that, hey, you may not find that other house that you want instead of this one. And then if this one came up available later, would you rather be in first position or in a pile of 15 other offers?
I agree. I actually had a couple of backup offers that I put for my client. And in the end, the original one didn't work out. And they called me because I was the only one who actually offered the backup offer. So they came to us and then we closed. So it does work.
Yeah, you're number one. You're not one of 15. And having that whole conversation again about why your offer is better than the other 14 or 15. You're there. So if the buyer says if the buyer says I don't want to wait, explain to them there's no obligation on your part to move forward with this if the other offer fails. If you find something else, you cancel your backup offer and go on about your business. But if you're still haven't found anything and this is a better house than what you're going to find and it becomes available, you're in first position. It's just a very, very strong place to be in a market where you've got people who don't qualify, who can't get their money, who can't make the deal close, and you're having deals falling apart left and right. And there's no guarantee on any deal that it's going to close. I've had people die the day before closing. It's just unfortunate. You can't guarantee it.
as long as you put a time limit on it, I guess it's okay, but you can't wait forever. But
You can. If you don't have anything else, you can wait
well,
forever.
that's true. Yeah, if there's not enough inventory out there, and this is the house of their dreams, they'll probably wait.
Yeah,
Most likely.
absolutely. What's the downside? There is none.
Well, I mean, an opportunity of finding something else. You don't want to lock them into a backup offer for months down the road or a month down the road.
They are not locked in our contract.
Yeah.
They have to reaffirm the contract at the time that the other contract falls apart.
Usually within like 3 weeks, you'll know if that
Right.
transaction is gonna fall through.
Right.
Because they'll do their home inspection within a week if they are doing one, and then the appraisal, usually that's the second part that can fall through, and then the mortgage. So I would not, rarely does it ever happen where, something will fall through after 2-3 months, because nowadays they're closing 30 days or less most of the time.
Our loan
Um,
contingencies are 30 days.
Yeah, so you know, that's another way of doing it. Now, to make your offer more competitive is also offering a use and occupancy to the seller. Let's say they're downsizing and or they're moving out of state and you want to close soon to lock the home, you can offer them a use and occupancy. Some make it sweet. Instead of offering 20, 30, 40,000 above, maybe offer them 30 days free UNO or 2 months. If depending on what kind of mortgage, you know, if you have a conventional or an FHA, it does change things. But that's something that you can sweeten up your deal, adding additional more than what everybody else is doing, which is just waiving contingencies. You have to sweeten up the deal. Have you guys added any other things that I did not mention that you know, your client's offer was accepted because you did something different?
Two. Oh, sorry.
If I could jump in, I'm sorry. Kind of piggybacks what you said before, but recently Nicole from my office, she made a deal on one of my listings because the buyer was willing to pay the transfer tax. I'm sorry, not the transfer tax, the exit tax. So it was an out-of-state owner that owned a house in New Jersey. They sold it, they got hit with a tax, but because of Nicole coming up with a great idea, she put it in her contract that the buyer would pay the exit tax, and that made the deal.
I'd like to piggyback on the use and occupancy if I could.
Sure.
That thing is huge. You don't have to lock in your move. You don't have to go buy a house subject to closing your sale of your house. It makes the seller so much more comfortable to know that he's got 30 days to wrap up his business and to move out of their house. That is so huge. The last 2 houses I've seen sold were like that, and it was amazing. The seller are just in heaven because they don't have all the pressure. They have all the guarantees. They have the money, and they have the use of their house until they're ready to move into their new house.
Especially if they're buying and selling at the same time, it's much easier for them to take their proceeds and then close on the new home and have enough time to move out and not have that stress of like doing both transactions on the same day.
And all this revolves back to your earlier point about talking to the listing agent. Until you talk to the listing agent, you may not find this information out. The more
Yeah,
information
correct.
you know is going to allow you to figure out the best approach and your plan of attack.
I think
had
that-
a,
Yes.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I had an opportunity to secure a deal by offering something unique on an estate sale with buyers just a few weeks ago. And my buyers offered the people that were holding the estate saying that if they did not want to go through the effort of removing contents, that they would just take the home with the content that they didn't want to remove, and they would take care of that after closing. So that saved up a lot of headaches, and we secured the deal.
Good idea.
That's a really
I'm
good
close-
idea.
I'm gonna be closing on a house on next Wednesday, which was an estate sale. And there were multiple bids, and the house is not livable the way that it is, so, you know, people have to do work if they're gonna move into this house, but still there were multiple bids. And, one of the things that, really decided in the favor of the winning bid was the fact that they said that they would take care of getting the CO from the town and any of the expenses incurred in getting that. And the estate, of course, was thrilled about that they didn't have to get involved in that.
Yeah, I had an agent in my office who submits offers and they tell the listing agent from the time of the offer being accepted to closing, whatever's needed, you don't have to get involved. I'll do the running around. I'll apply this for the CO. I'll go to the appointment. Something needs to be changed. We'll take care of it. The seller does not have to change fire extinguishers or, you know, smoke detectors. They'll handle it. And it works. He's been killing it, you know, because as the the listing agent, they just want to go and sell. And having somebody who says, hey, I'll take care of your job too, and I'll make sure we get to the closing table, that's a win-win. I just had somebody wanted to say something. Catherine, I don't know if she's still here.
Yeah, so exactly what the other agent said. Most of my people are buying homes that are from elderly people that are downsizing or moving out of state. So on past 3 deals we've won, we've put, the sellers don't have to clean anything out. They'll accept the home totally as is, and my buyers will take care of the, clean out process, because a dumpster is like $700. And I told them, for that to win your offer. And we just won in Blairstown on Friday with 9 other offers with that. And of course the video as well. The video is really, every agent says that that's what, puts us over.
Yeah, and tying on to Catherine's, every agent that I send a video to, they all say to me it's the first one they've got. And I'm like, man, video's been out for 10, 15 years, this accessible, and nobody's doing it still. And you can talk about it till you're blue in the face, but it is a differentiator for sure. And, just 2 other things that we do on almost every offer is inspections. So many people promise to do limited inspections, which is nonsense, because everything falls into the limit, and any listing agent worth their salt knows that it's nonsense. But you basically say, for informational purposes only, with the right to terminate. And what you're doing is, rather than bidding up, you're giving the seller security, but you're also on your side saying, okay, I may be out $1,000 for home inspections, but I'm not paying $50,000 over asking, because I just took that off the table. 3 of 3, that term has won in the last 2 weeks. Just saying, for information purposes only, but right to cancel. And down the road, no one's going to terminate. They're going to all want to negotiate, because they don't want to go back on the market anyway.
Hi, Jonah. This is Karma with Remax in New Jersey.
Hi, Karma.
Hi. Can I just add one thing for the smoke certificate?
Yes.
Just make sure before you promise, and I do that, I promise the homeowner to pay for the actually the application, and I apply for it, but only if a smoke certificate, because there's the difference between smoke certificate or certificate of occupancy. Certificate of occupancy, they check heating, air condition, fireplace, they check everything. Just make sure that actually what type of inspection your township required. That's it.
Well, for the certificate of occupancy, you can always put a limit, right? So you can talk to your buyers, and if they tell you, hey, whatever you think might make my offer stand out where it will get accepted, I'm willing to do anything and everything, you can always put a limit for the certificate of occupancy. You can say, hey, you'll go and apply for it, and you'll go to the inspection, but you'll limit it only to like $2,500 or $3,000 or $1,000. If something needs to get done and then it's beyond that, then it'll, the seller will have to pay the difference.
That's a good idea.
That could help too, right? So, some buyers are willing to do that. If that's going to make their offer get accepted, they'll say, yeah, I'll do it. For FHAs, what I have done in the past that has worked is, everybody's okay with limiting home inspections to just major structural issues, right? What about like with FHAs, we know that the appraiser can have conditions as well that needs to get done. And a lot of times you don't want to write that on the contract, because then they're going to go and look for and see like, why are they writing the type of language? So when I'm submitting my offer to the agent, after I tell them over the phone or in person, is, hey, during attorney review, the attorney will add a clause that in the event the appraiser has conditions that need to be addressed, the buyer will handle them for the seller. So the seller does not have to do if anything needs to get done, it would be on the buyer. And I've had that happen and it worked. So that's another thing that you guys can do with FHA buyers is, yeah, you might not want to write it on the contract, but there's ways to do it to get it done. Joe, you have a question too. I see you raised your hand. Maybe by accident.
I have a question.
Yes.
Hi, I'm new here. I just
Hi,
transferred.
welcome.
Thank you. I'd like to know something. You're talking mainly about New Jersey market?
So I am in New Jersey, but I'm sure some of these tips will help you. You're in Florida?
I'm in Florida, I'm in Pembroke Pines, but I don't see the market like you have it right now over there. I don't see over asking here. Actually, properties are staying on the market for a long time. I have a listing right now in Coral Springs, and it's very, very slow. And the homes there are sitting for 1 month to 2 months.
Yeah, our inventory here in Florida is getting plentiful, so we're not having too many difficulties with
No.
with properties, you know, fewer properties on the market.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've seen, there has been where properties are staying on the market longer than usual, but for the most part, you'll still have 40, 50 people waiting outside at an open house.
Oh,
to see
no.
property.
That's long past here. It's
Yeah.
not happening.
Yeah,
If you
so
price it
I
right,
mean,
if you price it right, it'll sell pretty quick. But if it's a little bit overpriced or overpriced, it's gonna take a little longer. So it's up to you, listing agent, to be strong on getting a price reduction.
No, I did, but the price, the house is on price. All the 5 bedrooms are higher than the closed sales are much higher than the property that I listed. But still, I see in that, I don't know if it's that a specific area, they're sitting on the market for long. And usually they go for less. That's what I'm seeing in that area, at least.
eventually it's probably going to happen. But for now,
Yeah.
the market in New Jersey has still been very hot. And of course, you'll have properties that are overlisted and then, you see a price reduction. But what
Of
I've
course.
seen that happen, and I had a listing in New York, my client insisted on a price. We reduced it because, nobody was budging, and then it still sold above asking.
Mm.
So because at that point you had multiple people coming, submitting an offer, and then you do best and final, and then it went beyond the original price I had listed by just doing a reduction. So,
Yeah, and Adona, just to comment on the market too, right? So I don't know if everyone else in North Jersey knows, but the last 3 weeks inventory has risen like almost 200%, right? And above 600 is just a little bit slower, and then it gets to 1.2 million and it's on fire again. So you have to know where you're dealing with in the marketplace, because the last 3 deals that I was referring to, all of those were at asking price. There were multiple offers, but it was at asking price. It wasn't dramatically over. And you could potentially be putting your buyer at risk if you're just assuming that the pricing was out there, right? So I would just say be cautious, because the market is going to change and inventory is up right now. And if it all depends on the home, not necessarily the generalization of the market.
Exactly.
Hey, Glenn, Glenn, while you're on, there was a question in the chat about, basically the way I'm reading it is the video that you talked about sending with an offer. That's not like verbalizing a love letter. It's more about presenting the offer. Is that correct?
100%. Yeah. And that's the best part about it, is you get to do that without the nonsense of the love letters and all that stuff. And you have to be good at it. You have to be practiced. And what you're saying is, hey, here's our offer. I go down the line, like $400,000, 10,000 over asking, 20% down. We're waiving this, we're waiving that. And at the end, I go, I'm a full-time hands-on agent. I manage my clients, and we'll get to the closing table. I work with the lenders and attorneys that we're dealing with all the time. And I close the video like that every single time.
Can you send,
Other question?
can you share the video?
Yeah, Rob did share it a couple of weeks ago. I can have him share it again. That's not a problem. I mean, I do it for every single offer. So I never, ever, ever send an offer. Even if I'm in the middle of like the wilderness of North Jersey in God's country, I will take a video, put my laptop up on top of my car, and I'll do a video for every single one. Never fails.
Oh.
Joe, you have a question too, right? Or a comment?
Yes, yes.
Hi.
Hi, I'm new. I'm from Remax, South Jersey, so I'm just joining Remax Select now.
Welcome.
Thank you. I just did want to share because I have, a very difficult situation with low inventory in South Jersey as well. And one of the things that I do that is very successful in the multiple bidding situation is I use escalation clauses. So the escalation clause just gives my buyers that extra bump up that the sellers know comfortably that my buyers are willing, we typically go in at asking and how high they're willing to go up, in addition to all the typical, waivers and whatnot. So the escalation clause has put my buyers over the edge in winning their bids. So I just
A lot
wanted
of times here, they don't allow escalation clauses.
Where in Florida?
In New Jersey.
In New Jersey?
No, in Florida we do.
I mean, they usually say no escalation clauses because it gets way too complicated if there's multiple escalation clauses. But a lot of them don't, they'll say no escalation clauses.
Wow, we luckily get them in Jersey, down South Jersey.
But you
So-
can verbally put it on the offer. Well, at least I do it here in Florida.
Oh, okay. That's why I just wanted to share the escalation clause.
Thank you.
And I
Bill?
was curious about
Yes.
the video being kind of, if it's just the agent or if you're agent and buyer on that video, but I guess it's
Just agent, yep.
just agent, that's good.
Yep,
All right,
yep.
thank you.
And they 100% of the time forward them on to the client because I can see who watches the video, and every single time the client gets it. So you've literally sat in front of the client and given your presentation.
All right,
Love
nice,
it. Love it. That's good.
very nice.
That's awesome. Bill, I don't know if you have your hand up.
Yep, I'm
Not
here.
sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah, one other thing, South Florida uses as is with right to inspect contracts. And that's I mean, it used to be, the seller would pay up to 1.5% of the purchase price towards repairs and maintenance. And it got to the point that there was always 1.5% of repairs and maintenance need to be done, according to the inspections. So, the sellers have determined that they want to see as is with right to inspect. The buyers are comfortable with that. And it's a practice that we're very predominant here in South Florida. So you write the offer, you call for your inspection, you do it in a short period of time. And anything that you find that you don't want to live with, you can still present it to the seller and say, look, I'm comfortable with the house except for this and that. And if you'll take care of those things, we're in. And if you don't, then we're out. And it's quick and easy, 7 days, 10 days. Everybody knows where they're going to stand on the whole thing, but it's not loading up the seller with a known expense that's going to be hanging out there. Obviously, there are going to be things that nobody anticipated if you get down to it, like termites.
That's, yeah, there's many different ways that you guys can make your offer better than everybody else, right? We're all trying to do the same thing, but adding a little touch. I also have seen where, let's say they know the seller's moving, they'll offer to pay the movers for them. So, that's something that's different, right? Not everyone's gonna offer that. And they're gonna say, hey, we'll pay for it for you. So you have they'll pay their attorney fee, their realty transfer fee, their movers. So, that matters probably more than just the price. The contingency dates always matter as well, making sure that you stay on top of it. You don't want to disappear from the transaction. Holding the transaction together is so important, right? And by using the affiliate partners, like, lenders, attorneys, title, it helps that we all know each other, and they'll make sure they go above and beyond to get you to the closing table.
Yeah, Glenn just put in the chat there that he had 11-day. We do that too. We try to get our buyer approval because on our contracts here in Florida, there's a 30-day approval process. We changed it to 20, but sometimes if we have a really strong buyer and my mortgage broker says I can get them approved in 10 days or 12 days or 15 days, that helps getting your offer accepted too. Because that way, you know, the buyer gets approved and you can set your closing date accordingly.
Another one is doing the home inspection and appraisal at the same time within 7 days. That's another way of saying, hey, we'll get that out of the way, you know, as soon as possible, as soon as we're under contract. That could also be something that will help your offer.
Yeah.
I just want to say that for some of you that came in late, Rob is traveling currently. He's on a flight. His flight was delayed, therefore he could not join us today. So he asked me to take over, and I appreciate all of you guys for helping me out today and
Great
giving
job.
all these
Great job,
tips.
Ivana.
Thank you. And I think we're pretty much done here. Just wanted to say thank you. And I hope you guys all have unless you have something else to say, we're done for today.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Donna.
Donna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you very much. Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Great weekend.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Donna.
you very much.